Good evening and welcome to the third in our series of 4 programmes showcasing the work of the Tell Me Project. For the past year, Isle of Man school children have been interviewing citizens aged 60 and over, asking what life was like for them when they were growing up. We've talked about school days, living through the war, the food they ate, some of the more popular subjects. Tonight we look at growing up in the 1920s, internees arriving on the Isle of Man, and the knit nurse. We'll start though with Mrs. Anne Duggan, talking to Alex Stewart from Ballasalla School, and he asked her first of all where she went to school.
I went to Hanover Street School in Douglas, which is still standing today, but now used as offices. I lived just across the road where the car park is now. But even living across the road from the school, I could still be late from time to time.
Was there any consequences being seen without the correct uniform on?
Well, yes, there was. If you were caught without your hat, we used to wear a hat, a velour hat then, or a berry. And if you were caught outside school with your hat off or your tie off or anything like that, you would get a detention, a whole hour's detention on a Thursday.
Were your teachers allowed to cane people who misbehaved?
I didn't actually see anybody getting caned, but one thing I remember, you would get a rap over the knuckles with the ruler in odd time, and we had one teacher who had a thimble and used to walk up, a thimble on her finger, and she'd walk up and down the aisle, and if you lifted your head up from the book, she would tap you on the top of the head quite hard, which was very painful.
What games did you play at school?
We played lots of different games, mainly running around, tip, skipping rope, top and whip, film stars, which you used to guess the name of the initials. One person would give the initials to the other children and they'd have to guess who it was, and then you'd run across the road and first there would be the winner.
Did you always walk to school? If not, how else did you get there?
Well, I didn't have far to walk at Hanover Street, did I? Because I was just across the road. But when I went to Ballacameen, yes, I used to walk, unless it was raining very heavy and then you'd get the bus. But no, Neil walked every day.
Do you remember your first day going into high school?
Yes, I do remember the first day because we had to walk from Hanover Street School up to Ballacameen, and we were the first children at Ballacameen because it was only being opened, and the Home Secretary came over at that time to open the school. So it was all very exciting, a lot different from what we'd been used to at Hanover Street School.
Is there anything else that you remember about your school days?
What I remember about Hanover Street School was queuing up in the corridor every day for a spoonful of malt and a free bottle of milk. And we used to look forward to that very much, which I don't think they get today.
Well, I went to school like everybody else. I didn't mind school, and I enjoyed all the sports and things that was connected with school. I played football and went fishing. One of the things I used to love was going with the elder boys down to Flesig Bay, and they made rafts out of barrels and planks and things. We used to go out into the bay and fish off them. So I loved doing that. We used to make bonfires on the beach and things that doesn't seem to happen nowadays. So yes, it was a very enjoyable time of my life.
Weren't you scared when you were on the raft in case you fell off?
I did fall off, and funnily enough, I was rescued by a gentleman called Mark Kinley, and I never forgot and we named our son Mark after Mark Kinley. And I was scared at the time.
Yeah. At school, were you allowed to play any like board games or anything?
Board games?
Yeah.
What do you call board games?
Well, like snakes and ladders. Or
Oh, no, we didn't sort of do that sort of thing. It was more outdoor activities. I remember that when we were at Russian school, we used to be marched up to the baths at Bradda, which are now in ruins, and come rain or snow or anything, they used to march us up, and we used to go into this pool, and that's where I nearly learned to swim. One of the teachers used to, he would have a rod with wire bands on it, and used to put these around his shoulders, and as you can imagine, it was very hard to try and swim with those on, so it was a bit of a disaster, really.
I wouldn't have liked to do that.
No. So I learned to swim all on my own on the beach in Port Erin.
Did you have like a favourite toy?
I never had a favourite toy, but I had lots of toys. And one episode in my life, I remember when I was very young, was my grandfather used to give tins and cans and stuff like that to people that they used to call internees. They were prisoners of war brought over from England, Germans, and they used to collect these tins and cans, and they would take them away, and then a week or so later they would come back again on their day out or their activities, and they would hand these toys that they'd made.
Yeah.
They were wonderful toys, so I accumulated quite a lot of them.
Did they break easily?
No, they were well made, and I played with them for years. And then we moved house, and we had to get rid of a lot of stuff, and I'm very, very sorry now that we got rid of most of my toys, which if I'd had them today, they'd be very valuable.
Yeah. So you don't have any toys now that you did have?
No, I grew out of toys very early in life, and I liked outdoor activities far more than playing toys and things. I painted a lot, I used to draw a lot, and I used to love doing that.
Did you have any like works of art that you
Not
did
works
do?
of art, but I did do quite well at school with art. And I remember my daughters, when they grew up and they were at school, I used to do their art homework for them, and they used to get good grades. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Jack Potts, talking there to Sammy Dilworth from Arbury Primary School. Tom Norman Harris grew up in the 1920s and is interviewed for us here by Joe Harris from Ballasalla Primary School.
What subjects did you do at junior school?
Well, we used to do all subjects, of course, and the ones I was at was woodwork, gardening, science, technical drawing, any sort of drawing, any sort of a technical subject. I used to help the science master with the class. I used to go around part of the class when we were doing circuits. I used to do part of the class and he used to do the other part. Helped him.
What was your favourite?
Favourite subject?
Yeah.
Well, gardening, really. I mean, they used to send me... our headmaster, I was in top class there, and our master, our teacher, he was the gardening teacher. He used to take all the school for gardening, and he used to come to me and he'd say, Tom, he said, so-and-so class 2 have made a right mess. They've been out gardening, made a right mess. He said, go out and straighten it all up for them. And I used to go out, and I'd go out every day gardening because I loved it. And I used to make a proper job, where they'd made a mess. I used to tidy it all up because I was used to doing plenty of gardening at home and working at home. I used to go helping my uncle on the farm, riding on the back of the big horse and leading the horse that was Owen. He needed a lad to lead it, and you never got any money, of course. You did it all for love and all that kind of work. I loved working. I would always loved working. I'd do any sort of work, and I was ever so good at it.
Did you do sport?
I used to play football a bit, not much. I weren't so keen on football. I was good at running. I liked running, and I was good at running, a good runner.
Did you have a knit nurse?
We had a knit nurse, yes. Well, of course, we all had a few knits in those days. And my mother, she had what you call a knit comb. It was a very fine comb. Used to comb them out and on a sheet of newspaper and comb the knits and drop them out, yeah. But you always had a knit nurse come round occasionally.
Did you have school dinners?
No, never had a school dinner. We couldn't afford it. There was what, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, 5 or 6. 5 kids in those days at school. You couldn't afford 5 dinners, 5 children at school. We always used to take a bit of bread and cheese and whatnot and have a glass of water.
How old were you when you left school?
I was 14 when I left school, and with me being top at woodwork, I had the first choice first refusal of a job in the joiner's shop with a building firm, and I accepted that, and I did 50 hours a week from 7:30 in the morning till 5 at night. I used to go Saturday morning as well, and I was 4 mile away. I had to buy 4 mile each way, and I did 50 hours a week for 10 shillings.
You're listening to the third in a series of 4 programmes showcasing the Tell Me project, an intergenerational initiative where Year 6 and Year 9 children from across the Isle of Man interviewed our older citizens to find out what life was like for them when they were young. Joyce Carser is now interviewed for us by Bradley Carser from Ballasalla Primary School.
Did you have very far to travel to school? Because I'm very lucky and only have to walk down the road.
Oh, well, yes, I had to go down about 3 or 4 roads and onto a main road before I could get into the school.
Was the school you went to a girls' school or a mixed with girls and boys?
It was a mixed school.
I played football at playtime. What did you do?
Well, we used to go out and play tennis or, netball, things like that.
What did you do for lunch and what did you have for lunch?
Well, on a Friday, it was fish and rice pudding, because we always had that on a Friday when we had our meals there. It was a convent school, you see, because they were all nuns and they had all these different things for us to eat like that, fresh fruit.
What was your favourite lesson when you were at school?
English, I would say, yes. Games.
We often go out for school trips. Did you ever go out on any school trips?
Yes, I did. Yes, I went to St Anne's-on-Sea and Blackpool and trips like that to the zoo. Took us to the zoo.
We have school discos. Did you have anything like that?
No, we hadn't anything like that in this school.
We are lucky to have various different clubs like football, netball and chess. Did you have any clubs?
No, nothing like that.
Did you have any school uniform when you were at school?
Yes, we had, yes.
What school uniform was that?
Well, it was Panama and blazers and skirts and shoes and, black stockings. And then in the summer and the winter we had different ones.
What age did you go to school?
I started school at the age of 5, I'd got two sisters already at school, and I started at the junior infant school in Ashby de la Zouch, Leicestershire, at the age of 5.
How many children were in your class?
I'd say about 20. It's only a very tiny school. I don't think it's used now.
Were boys and girls mixed?
Yes, they were mixed because the school wouldn't be big enough to have boys and girls. They had to be mixed, yes.
Were the school teachers strict?
Well, I should say they were strict, yes, because I used to have a mile and a half to go from home to school, and the head teacher used to come and meet me and shout, come on, Tommy, you're late again, you know. And she used to take me then to school, and I suppose she was supposed to be a bit worried about me, whether I got lost or something, you know. But anyway, I got there all in good shape.
Did you get punishments?
I don't remember getting any punishment, no, but they'd be a bit strict. But I mean, we were too young at that age. We were only 5. And we were well behaved and we were timid.
Did anything exciting happen when you were young?
Yes, we lived in a street and it went down onto the main road. And when somebody saw a car coming along the main road, they used to come shouting up the street, "A car coming, car coming!" And we all used to run down the street to watch this car go by. That was exciting for us. And then we had the 1926 strike. That was on then. The whole country was on strike. My dad was outcropping for coal. He used to go down and dig coal out the ground because it was near at Ashby. It was near the surface, and they used to have a tripod and lower themselves down. There were two of them were doing it. One man went down in one foot in the bucket on the pulley, and the other one lowered him down, and then they went underneath. They used to cut timber out of the woods and prop the roof up, and then they used to send the coal up in a bucket, all in a bucket. The farmer used to sell it, give them so much a ton for the labour getting it out of the ground. That was during the 1926 strike. And we had girls from London. We had 2 girls from London, and then when they went back we had 2 more girls from London, evacuees, to come and stay with us. We'd already got 3 kids of our own, but we had these 2 girls stayed with us, evacuees, during the 1926 strike. And we also had the big flood in Ashby. Ashby, main town, was flooded. We had torrential rain one year. I don't know what year it was, about 1920 something it would be. And it was flooded out the town, was. And then another thing that was exciting, you used to get, it was all horse and carts, you see, and occasionally you'd get a horse run away, and it would go careering down the main street or wherever it was. It set off at full gallop with the cart, and of course it wrecked the cart and everything it came into contact with. But that used to happen regularly, I remember, as a lad, because there was all horses and carts everywhere, and occasionally they'd run away. They'd be frightened with something, you know. If they saw a car, they'd be frightened, and it would set them off at full gallop. One day when we were at school, not to Ashby, we moved then, when I was 5, we moved to Bagworth, and I went to a different school. We used to have a mile and a half to walk to that school. And I remember the airship, the R100 airship, coming right near the school. They fetched us all, every class they fetched out of school to watch this airship go by, and it went that slow by. But anyway, that was the first time we'd seen an airship. And then of course it was all trains on the railway. Everywhere you had to go on the train, which was exciting, of course. Our main town was Leicester, and we used to go into Leicester on the train for about threepence, something like that, return. My grandma used to live at Nailston, so we went to stay with her occasionally. And once when we were there was an aeroplane. You never saw an aeroplane, but this one had made a forced landing down the road and in a field, and all the village was out there watching it to take off. And it took off with a man standing on. It was biplane, of course, and it stood up. It took off with one man standing on each wing. I don't know why, but anyway, I remember it taking off, and I'd be about 6 at the time, 6-year-old, so that would be about 1928. So that took off. But to see an aeroplane, that was something that everybody in the village would turn out from a roundabout, would turn out just to see it.
That was Tom Norman Harris once again, talking to Joe Harris. Finally, in this week's programme, we return to the subject of internees on the Isle of Man. And Callan Kelly, from Arbury Primary School, asked Sheila Kelly whether she ever had evacuees staying in their house during the Second World War.
No, we didn't. We had no evacuees, but anyone with a boarding house had internees.
Yeah.
Your second cousin and her mother had quite a lot of internees, and some of them were very, very nice people. It was unfortunate for them because most of the internees just happened to be out of Germany or Italy, wherever, when the war started, and so they were interned not just here, not just in the Isle of Man. For a little while they had men only in husbands only in Port St Mary, and the wives had to be interned in Port Erin. But after a while they changed that. I was really quite young when that happened, but I can certainly remember having to go through a barrier into Port Erin. You couldn't just go into Port Erin, you had to go through this, what do you call it? Barrier or gate with sentries.
Security guards.
Security guards.
So that the internees can't get out.
That's right. That's right.
It's interesting.
We also had the internees in Douglas used to go to Knockalo, which was an experimental farm. And a lot of the men used to work there, and they were very, very clever. There are things in the museum at the moment that they've made out of cattle bones and things like that.
Like carved because they had nothing else
That's
to do.
Right.
Like,
That's
in
right.
their spare time.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the third in our series, Tell Me, 4 programmes showcasing the work of the Tell Me project. This groundbreaking venture is the brainchild of Professor Hugh Davidson, and with the help of Penny Crichton and Chris Redman, has grown into a true multimedia project. All the children involved in the Tell Me project were given advice on interview technique and trained to operate the mobile recording equipment on their own. If you'd like to find out more about this project, you can go onto the website, which is the Tell Me Project, all one word, the Tell Me Project, all one word, .com. And there's information, additional recordings, videos, and many other interviews that you can read. I hope you'll join me next week at the same time for the final programme in our series, where once again we'll be exploring a bygone age told to children by people who lived through it.